we'll catch up in a minute, saying goodbye to the daughter. All right, good afternoon, folks. Hey, it's Mike, and it's
You forgot my name?
it's Kathy. We're gonna talk about Reaper. It's weird the way that she is, excuse me, positioned behind this microphone. It's kind of like Mike Wazowski on Monsters Inc. I'm on TV. Goodness gracious. All right. Well, I guess I won't belabor this too much. Let me switch my scenes here real quick. It's very difficult to try to control all this stuff by yourself, so I've got her with me to help keep track with chat and keep me focused and all that stuff. My apologies for all the grunting that I will inevitably do. What I'm going to be working on this evening is a song by, I don't know if I'm going to pronounce this correctly, but the name is, I believe it's Pyro McClown. And he's a gentleman that I met from Greece. I mean, I didn't actually go to Greece, but he was on Adam's Discord channel for Hot Pole Studios and had posted a song for us to take a listen to. The song sounded pretty cool. I thought that it was good. The only thing that was kind of odd about it to me was that it had programmed drums, so I offered to record some drums for him. I did that and did 4 takes, and just sent the project to him to allow him to comp it and just choose what he wanted, what he liked about each section. And what I plan to do today is to take a look at the comp that he did and do some editing to help get things lined up better, because I am not a metronome. I don't play perfect, probably never will. About this creamer, don't get it. The Cocoa Pebbles creamer was fantastic, but the Fruity Pebbles creamer is absolutely horrible. I realize that has nothing to do with what we're talking about tonight, but I like coffee, and this does not help. All right, so I guess I can start by playing what he's got here so far. You can see that he has comped the performance across the 4 takes, as I said, and there's a few places where he ungrouped items and preferred a certain part of a different performance, primarily the kick, it looks like. But let's take a listen to it as is for now and just get a feel for the song. As I said before, my drumming is not perfect, so there's going to be some parts that are out of time, and that's the whole purpose of this, just to help us to learn a bit more about drum editing. I shall turn my mic down for a minute and let you guys check out the song while I drink some more coffee, if I can find OBS again. There we go.
And I don't know what day it is. Slide the magic from the ashtray. Take a sip and push my fingers in the rings. On the move to find out what day it is. Right or wrong, good or bad, they will show me the way. a sip, try to remember who I am, but I'm afraid that I forgot. Up or down, left to right, baby, show me the way. Up or down, left to right, you won't like either way. Try to find it, it's okay if you don't have the feeling. Your time to know will come. But she said I have to run goodbye. The look you gave to me was scary. Would you mind it if I go? Try to find it, it's okay if you don't have the feeling. Your time to know will come. And she said I will forever keep the look you gave to me that night. So would you mind it if I stay? Try to find it, it's okay if you don't have the feeling. Your time to come will come. But she said I have to run goodbye. The look you gave to me was scary. Would you mind it if I go away? Goodbye.
Bump, 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 ba-da-da-da-da-ba-da-bup-bup-bup. All right. That is the time. Your time has come by Pyro McClown, who has lovingly joined us in the chat session down there. I guess let's just get started. I'm not really that great at talking, so let's jump right in. The first thing that I'll do is up here in my toolbar, I want to make sure that grouping isn't enabled, and also selecting one item selects the entire group because the drums are, for the most part, grouped. I can see where he's ungrouped in a couple of places because he wanted to pull a section from another take. Let's see, there's not a whole lot going on in this intro. I want to go ahead and select this section and listen to it with the metronome enabled, which will probably annoy you just a little bit, but I don't really even remember what exactly I played here. I just want to try to make sure that everything is lined up pretty well. Excuse me. For the most part, the song sounded good and mostly in time. It did get a little bit out around the, what do you call it? It got a little bit out around the solo, and at the moment, I'm not 100% sure if it was the backing music or if it was me not hearing the metronome, or I don't know, something's off time, but we'll adjust it as best as we can once we get there. My objective is to get this lined up to the grid as much as... Dang it, I get the song name wrong again. Your Time to... That takes on a whole different meaning. I'm not going to address that. Your Time to Come. I need to edit the name of this. Let's go ahead and do this now. I'm going to go up to File and Save Project As, and I will call it your time to come with capital T-O. That way I have it named correctly. And if you check the description, I've got a link to Spyro's or his Instagram channel. Be sure to take a look at that, throw him a like or a subscribe or whatever you do on Instagram. I can't remember what it's called there because I'm old. So now that I've got my grouping enabled, I also want to turn off lanes because I'll need to increase some of these to where I can see for my old eyes. The default key press for that is Control-L. That will make sure that I'm only seeing the active take. And since all I'm doing here on the first part looks like I'm riding the hat a little bit, I've got this section highlighted. I'm going to turn on repeat, increase the, misses. Mastering in the box says hello.
Hi.
Or actually he says, ooh, misses, or something to that effect. Ooh,
Okay.
More on that later. Anyway, let's take a listen to this section, and with the click engaged and eyeballs engaged, actually I think I want to make these a little bit larger so I can see. I'm going to hold shift and press up. This will visually increase the waveforms on screen, but it will not change the volume at all. It'll just help me to see these quieter parts and make sure we're in time. So let's take a listen. Okay, so in this first part here, we can already tell that I'm off just a little bit. It's not by much. I've got the grid set to 16th notes, and I don't want to edit this to absolute perfection because, once again, I'm not perfect, but I do want it to be close to the groove, as close to the grid as possible without sounding robotic. So what I'll need to do, since we've got this piece here that it's not grouped with the rest, I'm going to need to make a split here just on this single track. So I'm going to temporarily turn off grouping, choose this single track, and split it right there. Which I've got my crossfades turned on. I don't necessarily want that right now, so I'll split that again so it just does a regular fade. And I will turn my grouping back on, select this group, press the letter U to ungroup temporarily, and then I'll group all of these parts of the drums again so that I can make sure that all the edits that I make on this section are done across all of the tracks. Since this is a multi-mic'd instrument, we want to make sure that it all moves together unless we're moving something individually for a reason. So going back and looking at these hi-hat hits here, that's a lot of H's, all these hi-hat hits, right about here, this one was off, and it was noticeably off to my ear, so I want to play that back again. It wasn't much, but it was just enough to be annoying. I'm going to do a couple of these the traditional way, and then I'll show you the way that John Tidy from Reaper Blog showed me using something that he calls fast edit mode. It's a custom action that changes some mouse modifiers to help make this whole process a lot faster. So the first thing that I want to do is I've got a button in my toolbar to turn on crossfades. If you don't have that button, you can go to multi-mic. You can go to your actions list and look for crossfade. I think it's set crossfade. I have to find what that action's called. Oh, split crossfade on. Okay. I'll find this in a minute. Somewhere in here there is an action that toggles. There we go. I think it's this. Yeah, options toggle auto crossfade on off. And I use that to change between whether I want a crossfade or just a regular fade. I like to use crossfades when I am editing drums because I need to. I surely hope you guys cannot hear the dog's claws on the floor behind me. If you can, my sincere apologies, but Belle says hi. So I want this to crossfade so I can edit where the, where the waveforms hit, just to make sure that everything blends naturally. So now that I've got that enabled, I want to add a split right here before that hit. And as we can see, that added a small crossfade across all the drum-related tracks. Now with that done, I can hold down Alt on my keyboard, and as I hold down Alt, you'll see that the cursor changes to a left-right arrow. That allows me to slip edit, which is moving this waveform inside of the container. So you can see if I move it back to the crossfade, it disappears. It's just moving the rest of what's downstream with it. So I'll move that to get that transient a little bit more in line with beat 4 of measure 3. And of course that moves everything downstream, so now we've got some more correction to do, but let's take a quick listen and see where we are. Okay, so if we take a look here at measure 4, beat 3, that will need to slide back a bit, so I'll put a split back here a little bit further. Since there's not a whole lot going on with the drums at this point, I'm able to freely cut just about anywhere that I want. So I'll do the same thing again and split here. I click the letter S to split by default, and hold down Alt on the keys again, and we'll slide this back to where that lines up with beat 3. And let's take a listen again. Get that click going again here. I had this routed to my in-ear, and it just dawned on me that you can't hear this. And neither can I, since I don't have my in-ear right now. There we go. Starting to get just a little bit off here, and we're still not needing to edit any crossfades yet. Since these are single hits, it's pretty easy just to shift this little bit as we go. And as we scroll down the timeline, we can see that these are lining up pretty well after a couple of minor edits, so we'll edit a few more. Get that in line. If it's off by just a little bit, I mean, I don't want to go through here and edit every single hit. You'll hear me say that several times throughout this, but I mean, I don't really like a robotic performance, but I do like a nice tight groove. And we want Spyro to be able to have the best performance possible, within reason. Yeah, Glendon, stretch markers I don't like using on drums. I've tried them before, and it is very finicky because, I mean, the hit is so short as it is in most cases that when you start stretching it, it causes some problems. I'll show you a much faster way here in just a minute. I'm doing this the slow way at the moment, and I'll showcase John's custom actions here shortly, but let's get through this intro the old-fashioned way real quick. Now that's just a little bit off, and it may sound fine. I kind of want to hear this in context real quick. Okay, so now we've got the kick coming in. And I definitely want the kicks to be a bit tighter. Now right there we can see the kick was supposed to come in on beat 4, and I'm off by probably just a couple of milliseconds. So I will place a cut just a little bit before that. And again, since all my items are grouped, it's placing the split across all of them. Now I'll hold Alt and left click and drag to move this transient back to where it's right on beat 4. That first kick is very important, and I want to make sure that that is pretty much dead on. Now the rest of it's probably gone out a little bit. I'm going to switch my grids to 1/8 notes since I'm not doing anything really intricate at this time. And I'll just split and slip edit a few more times. We're almost through the intro here. And this snare hit here needs to be dead on too. So let's split once again. And slide that back into place. Now if you're having trouble, that is the overheads. I should have paid attention to the snare instead of the overhead. So I'm going to undo that real quick. I got carried away looking at that big wave. I think I need to take these back down since we're getting back to normal territory. So I'm going to shrink that where I can see and focus on the snare top this time. Now, if anybody's got any questions, feel free to put them in chat. I want to try to go through this as quickly as possible, but at the same time, I don't want to miss an opportunity to try to explain something. That should have the intro mostly in time. I want to go back and take a listen real quick. John, the way that he does this, he practically doesn't listen to anything. He just does it by eye. He's just that good at it. I'm not at that level yet, and I like to go back and cross-check my work as I'm doing it, lest I forget something and just make a huge mistake and have to go really far back. So let's take a listen to this first part again and make sure that this sounds good. What I want to be careful to listen for is any glitches, anything that sounds crunchy, so to speak. I'm sure that we'll have an opportunity to explain that in a bit more detail later, because I'm sure there's going to be some edits that are much more complicated than what we just did that will cause some artifacts, but there's ways to fix that. I'm going to reduce that click a bit. All right, so far that's sounding pretty good. I didn't detect any glitches in that. Later on, I'll go back through and cross-check all this stuff again. I like to triple-check the performance after it's all done. But for the sake of time, let's move on to verse 1. Spyro, yeah, I typically do my editing based on the kick and the snare, and then move everything else around it. But in this case, since the hats were the primary focus on that intro, that's why I focused on that particular part. Since we won't be needing our mixer much at all, I'm going to go ahead and get that out of the way so we can have some more visibility here. And now that I've got my verse 1 selected, I want to focus on the kick and the snare, just as Spyro said. So I'll left-click the snare top and control left-click my kick. I don't know how this works on a Mac, but in Windows, if you hold Control and Shift and roll your mouse wheel up, that will zoom in vertically on the tracks that you have selected. And now I'm going to scroll up on my wheel to, to expand this horizontally so we can see. Now we can see that right here on verse 1, the first kick is early. But one thing that I also want to address here, it's really important that you do crossfades and not traditional fades here. So I'm going to temporarily disable my snapping. The default for that is Alt-S. I'll use keyboard shortcuts a lot, but I'll try to point out what I'm doing as I do it. So I'm pressing Alt-S to disable snapping. Now my grouping is still enabled, so as I pull that back, it looks like we've got something inside of the group, so let's fix that real quick. It's important that all this stuff stay grouped, very important. Now I'm forgetting my keyboard shortcuts. Okay, so we've got one that's out of the group, so I'm going to ungroup those. Left click and drag around this section, and then press G to group them. Now I can be sure that what I'm doing is affecting this whole group. So going back here to where this junction is, I want to move it all back a little bit, and then slide it over again to make sure that we have a crossfade here. So now that we've got that in place, we'll go back to focusing on the snare top and the kick. And first order of business is making sure that this first kick on the, what do you call this thing? On the verse is in line. So I'm going to hold Alt, left click, and drag. And as you can see, since everything is grouped, now that there's actually some data that you can see, all the drums are moving with it. Now, I hope I didn't get too far off base there. So we got that first kick on. And I'm going to have to listen to this because I forgot what I played, so let's take a listen.
9 a.m. and I don't
I think I'm probably going to... this has a bit of a swing to it, so the grid can be very deceiving. What I found when I was looking at this earlier to prepare for this was that if I adjusted my grid, which you can put a swing percentage in there, but it's hard for me to calculate what that percentage should be. I found that if I used 16th note triplets for my grid, that worked a bit better and helped me to see where things should go, because like right here, the relationship between this kick and snare is, well, since it's got that swing to it, it's a bit different. Let's see. So I'm going to place a cut here, and then I'll Alt click and drag to get that kick lined up, which my snare was a bit late there as well. So I'm going to place a split before that and drag that in line as well. I've got a lot of ghost notes going on in this, and I'm not too terribly concerned with the timing of the ghost notes being so perfect, for lack of a better word. I'll place a split here before that and slide this into place. If I recall, I think I'm just doing some basic hat work here, nothing too intricate, so I'm not too worried about where my splits fall just yet, but we may have to address that in a bit if it gets that crunchy sound I was talking about before. We've got another snare that's out of time, and the Sorry, these are kicks rather. This is my kick and here's my snare. I'll place a split there and slide that snare into place. And let's slide this, or kick rather, excuse me. Slide the snare back into place. So all I'm doing is splitting everything and moving it all together so that the relationship with each other stays the same. And as we find places that need it, we'll end up adjusting crossfades to fix where we've cut. Let's take a listen to that so far.
9 a.m. and I don't know.
And just that little bit, I mean, it seems really insignificant, but we're moving these things a matter of milliseconds, but it's really tightening up the groove. We'll leave those ghost notes where they are. That kick is ever so slightly off, not enough for me to mess with, but I do think I want to move this one. And once again, if anyone's got any questions about anything that I've done so far, feel free to pop it in chat. I will do my best to address those things as the missus lets me know that they're in there. I can kind of see some of the chats off to my left there, but I'm hoping to stay focused on the song and get this done pretty quickly. It's interesting, like how you can go through these pretty quickly when you're not paying attention and not talking and trying to narrate as you go. Like I said before, it's amazing watching John do this stuff. He just blows through it without even listening. But I still don't trust myself enough to do it completely by eye. That is a kind of a large movement there, so I want to go back to the start of the verse and try this again.
9 a.m. and I don't.
I think I may have heard a glitch. Let me solo the drums and take a listen. Why are the crossfades mastering in the box? With the crossfade like this, if I hold shift over a crossfade, I can move that all together and can control how much of the preceding and the following wave that I want to ultimately make it into your ear hole. So moving that crossfade helps me to control, like if I've got points, let me see if I can find a bad one. If I've got points where, okay, like this right here, if you can see that, we've got the waveform of one and the waveform of another that can cause some of the glitches that I'm talking about. We haven't really heard any major ones yet, but you fix those glitches by moving your crossfade. You can choose how much of the crossfade or the split. I've got mine set in preferences. Let me see if I can find it real quick. I want to keep them pretty small. I've got mine set by default to, what is that, 5 thousandths of a second. Is that milliseconds? Is that 5 milliseconds? I think that's 5 milliseconds. I'm not great with math. And so you can set that in your preferences under media item defaults. You can set a default length, but also if you find that you need to make a crossfade longer or shorter, if you move your cursor over near the center of the crossfade, you can see that I can change the length of that. Let's take a quick listen to this again and see if there was any oddities in there, any artifacts that we need to fix. I think that I hear one around measure 12. Let me check that again. Something sounds kind of funny in the hats. I'm not 100% sure. I don't think I want to dwell on it for too long, but let me take a quick look and see if there's any visible artifacts in here. And I don't see any, but I want to move that crossfade back just a hair to make sure that I'm not introducing anything from the previous part in there. Let's listen to that one more time. I think what I'm hearing is actually just the shell of my snare drum. I'm not used to hearing it from this side of things, so we'll move on. And when we get to the next section, I know I keep talking about it, but when we get to the next section, I'll show you John's method for the faster editing. I mean, this is pretty quick. I mean, I know that you can use dynamic split. Oh, wrong button. You can use dynamic split to robotically change this stuff kind of automatically, but I just don't like the results that it produces. I'd really go for a much more natural sound. Let's see, I lost my place. I accidentally hit W instead of 2 and went back to the front of the project. So ghost notes there. That kick's looking good. That kick's off a bit. That's looking pretty good. I want to shift this kick. That may cause a little bit of a glitch there, but we'll listen to it and be sure in just a minute. I'm kind of guessing at placement on this. I assumed that snare was supposed to be on beat 4, just because most of the snare work in this, aside from the ghost notes, is on 2 and 4, so it's a safe guess. That looks like a ghost note, so I'll just let that one slide. That one is all kinds of off. Feel like I should have some background music for you guys to listen to. I don't have a clue what I did here. That looks crazy, but I know that this should be on the 4. I'll just throw a random cut in here and slide this back and then take a listen to see what's going on here. That really doesn't sound bad despite being off, but I'm going to go ahead and shift that kick and test it one more time. Something sounds funny right there. It's almost like that kick is maybe just a hair late. Lawrence, welcome aboard. There, that sounded better. I just shifted that back just a few milliseconds. Alright, let's see if I can get focused again here. My dog keeps walking across the floor, and the noise of her paws on the hardwood is throwing off the Emperor's Groove just a touch. Alright, we're a little bit out here. We'll shift this. I'll leave that ghost note because it's not far enough to matter. Careful. That. Those are looking pretty good. This is not. So I'll go ahead and make a cut here and shift this whole little piece over. And you guys be sure to let me know if I'm either over-explaining or under-explaining. It's if I'm honest, it's really awkward for me to try to narrate this because it forces me to think, and normally doing this is more of a brain-dead activity, so to speak. It's kind of relaxing for me to sit here and edit drums. But you guys can't tell anybody what you've seen here because then they'll end up knowing that I don't really play that tight. I do okay for a guitarist, I guess. Now, Kathy wishes that I would play a lot more guitar because that's something that can be done quietly. No, I'm not trying to sound like a drum machine. I'm just trying to tighten up the performance just a bit. There's some parts of this where it got off enough to be annoying. And really more so than anything, I'm just kind of showing people how I go about editing drums. I do not believe in 100% grid alignment. But once you make that first cut, you kind of got to finish. All right, we are just about to the pre-chorus, and we'll go back and take a listen. And you can see again here, let's see what's he saying. You can see again here where we've got a regular fade instead of a crossfade, so I just want to move that and crossfade it in and make sure that this entire section is indeed grouped. and it looks to be. So let's focus back on the snare top and my kick. Slide that into place. I'm not really that great with shuffle beats and swings, so that's kind of another reason that I really wanted to try to get in here and tighten this up a little bit. What does that mean? Lawrence, I'm not sure if that's a typo. I might need some explanation for what that means. Whoops. Failed to make a cut. All right, and obviously once we hit the pre-chorus there, that's going to need to be on the downbeat. So let's go back and take a listen to all this in context. I'm going to unsolo the drums and just hear this whole section.
9 a.m. and I don't know what day it is. Slide the magic from the ashtray. Take a sip and push my fingers in the rings. On the move to find out what day it is.
All right, that is sounding pretty good to my ear. Now, if you guys hear any glitches that I miss, please speak up. Let's take a look at the pre-chorus, but before we go there, let's take a look at this fast edit that I keep talking about. Fast edit is not a button that exists in Reaper. It's a custom action that I don't know if he created it or whatever, but I learned it from John Tidy from Reaper Blog. Check him out on his website, reaperblog.net, and also look up Reaper Blog here on YouTube. He's got quite a bit of good tutorials and whatnot. But let's take a look at what that does. This button here calls a custom action called Fast Edit. And as you can see, it's here. Let me move this over where you can see it. Now, anybody that wants to be able to recreate this, take a screenshot now. You will need SWS extensions in order for this to work. The first action, now all these actions kind of get run simultaneously, but the first one is it makes sure that when I left click, it will split the selected item at the edit cursor and automatically add a crossfade on the left. Before this, I have been clicking on an item, clicking S on my keyboard, and that crossfade ends up exactly where I had my cursor. But this will make sure that the crossfade goes to the left of my cursor. It disables snapping, and it sets the, hey Alec, no, I have not done anything with Thunderkick yet, but I can definitely add that here shortly. So after disabling the snap, it sets the default action for left-clicking and dragging on the bottom half of an item to moving the contents of that item. Before this, I have to hold Alt on my keyboard and then left-click and drag. This also sets the default mouse modifier action for item fade intersection left drag to move both fades ignoring snap. That seems pretty self-explanatory. If I'm honest, I don't necessarily understand that. I just put it in there because John said so. So hopefully those of you who want this have taken a screenshot. Of course, this will still be available for replay after the fact. This particular action is not one that I can... Well, let me back up a step. So I've created a custom button here to call this action, but instead of just left-clicking it, this is something that I need to stay armed. So to arm this, I right-click, and that has changed my mouse modifiers. As you can see, my cursor now has an A, which means that when I left-click, it's going to perform whatever action that was assigned to this Fast Edit button. So to put that into perspective, let's see, we've got our first kick here, which is in time. This kick is off. Now, instead of me having to click on my ruler to place my edit cursor where I want, I can simply left click, and you can see it's cut all of my items and added a crossfade to the left of where I clicked. Now, instead of having to hold Alt on the keyboard, if I move my cursor to the lower half of the desired media item, you can see that the cursor changes, and I can just left click and drag to slide the contents. So with that in mind, I now no longer really have to touch the keyboard, but I can just do some quick clicks and start dragging stuff around and move quickly down the line. I mean, as the name would imply, Fast Edit is made to help you go through this a whole lot quicker. I mean, we can blow through this section in probably a quarter of the time that I did the last section, just because I no longer have to click things on my keyboard at the same time. Now, the perfectionist side of me really wants to go and cross-check this, but I want to try to blow through a bit of this section, then go back and check it. Now, I can see here that this one is on time. I may leave that one alone. I'll go back and I'm going to place a marker here. If I can get my keyboard presses right. Yeah, I'm going to place a marker there just to remind me to check this. And that part's interesting right there. I think I want to go ahead and check this now. Let's go back to the beginning of the pre-chorus and take a listen.
Right or wrong, good or bad, they will show me the.
Okay, so right there, we're sounding pretty good, but this needs to slide back. And I think I need to add another slice here and slide this forward. That may end up sounding kind of wonky though, because like I said, I don't want this to be too perfect. I just want it tight enough to where it feels good. She's got jokes. This is PG. So.
Right or wrong, good or bad, they will show me the way.
Okay, that sounds pretty good so far. That's looking good. And at this point, I'm trying to just go through this mostly by eyeball with as little cross-checking as possible. I do like to listen immediately if there's something that I'm not sure of. In this case, I feel like I can be mostly sure of what's going on because it was me that played the drums, but at the same time, I played the drums 2 days ago, exactly 2 hours after I heard the song the first time. So nothing is really certain in this. Not sure what's happening there. I think I just want to move all of that. Yeah, the fast edit is very cool. It is, I mean, it does what the label implies. It definitely takes some skill. I know I keep talking John, but admittedly, I'm a failed student of John's that's just trying to make his way in the world. He is so much faster at this. Do we have anybody on here that came from Reddit by chance? I'd posted on Facebook and on Reddit to let people know that we were doing this today. This was kind of spur of the moment. Just something to do on a Friday. I realize this is nowhere near as fun as actually hearing something, but the fun comes when we get to hear the finished product. And I know that we're going to have some stuff we're going to have to fix once we get to that solo. I remember hearing how off that was. Which, Spyro, are you still here? Did you play all of the guitars on this? Like, did you do the solo work and everything? Or do you have any co-conspirators? Reddit gang. All right. Alec, before I forget about it, because I'm 44 and as such my memory is fading, let's take a quick look at that thunder kick that you were asking about. Now, I'm going to disarm my fast edit so I don't accidentally do something. The other day I did a video about JS Thunderkick, and something that people had mentioned on the videos and also on Reddit and Facebook as well was that the part where I compared the before and after, I'd played it for a very short time, and then I spoke for a second, and then I turned the plugin on and played it again, and something about, I guess, the way the ears work and resetting and something like that. Let me just shut up for a second, and I'm going to turn this on and off at random so people can hear. Let's actually go back to the verse and let it play through the pre-chorus, and I will play with, what do you call this? Thunderkick as we go.
9 a.m. and I don't know what day it is. Slide the magic from the ashtray. Take a sip and push my fingers in the rings. On the move to find out what day it is. Right or wrong, good or bad, they will show me the way. Right or wrong, good or
All right, Alec, I hope that you could hear that a little bit better. I did increase the effect. By default, it's minus 6 dB, and I increased it to minus 3.6. And I also increased the gain a little bit. I've got my monitors turned down kind of low to keep them from feeding back through the microphone because I don't really care for wearing headphones. So I just basically turned it up to where I could feel it in the room. Let me go back to the first verse and we'll do a quick before and after again. So here is before, and you'll just have to watch me push the button so I don't talk and mess with the whole ear reset thing like we talked about.
9 a.m. and I don't know what day it is. Slide the magic from the ashtray.
Okay, we got to talk about that real quick. Swipe the mattress from the ostrich. Now that you've heard me say it, you're going to hear that every time. Slide the mattress from the ostrich.
9 a.m. and I don't know what day it is. Slide the magic from the ashtray. Take a sip and push my fingers in the rings. On the move to find out what day it is. Right or wrong, good or bad, they will show me the way. Right or wrong, good or bad, I won't mind either way.
All right, so we've stumbled into some unedited territory. I hope that you guys were able to clearly hear the difference with the Thunder Kick turned on and off. Now, granted, I did finagle with the settings a little bit to make it to where I could clearly hear it myself, but I'd like to think you guys did too. Let's go in and finish up this pre-chorus. Now, I've still got plenty of this Fruity Pebbles coffee creamer if any of you guys want some. It's disgusting. Speaking of coffee, it is not required, but if anybody would like to make a donation to the channel, there should be a Buy Me a Coffee link in the description. I have no clue where that's supposed to go. I need to listen. This snare hit right here is late to the point of hearing that it's late, which is bothersome. Okay, now, someone had asked earlier about the crossfades. We have found an example where this is necessary, so let me undo that split for a minute. Now, if you watch here, what I'm wanting to do is to cut here to move this snare hit back in line to beat 3.5 of measure 23. So I add my split, and you'll see as I drag this back, if you'll watch the kick track, which is 2 tracks below this one, you can see that kick transient starting to come on the scene. So as I get my snare hit in line and look downstream, I've got a problem here. That's going to be a double-fired kick. So to move your crossfades, instead of just one side or the other, if I hold shift, you can see that my cursor changes to make sure that it's affecting both the forward and the backward fade. So I'll shift and left-click and drag and just make that disappear. I want that completely gone so that nothing that shouldn't play plays there. That snare hit should be in time, and hopefully we don't hear any glitches. Okay, that's much better. And we need to figure out what the heck is supposed to happen here. I'm willing to bet that this was supposed to be on 4.5. And that kick should be on 1. So let's take a quick listen here. Okay. And of course, since we're doing this push and pull, it affects everything downstream, so we've got to start to line these things back up. Eventually it catches up with itself. It's just once you make a mistake, everything afterwards is kind of mistaken too, up to a point. It's going to do a slight shift on this and pull everything behind it up with it. Get this kick back in line. Once again, guys, if anybody's got any questions, feel free to ask. Or comments or suggestions or whatevers. Now, you can see, like, here, that kick transient went on for a little bit, but with the kicks, quite frankly, as long as that first hit is good, like the first little bit, the little bit that's trimmed off shouldn't be that big of a deal. Okay, here we can see we've caught back up with ourselves a little bit until here, where I guess I got lazy and hit the snare late. I kind of started cramping a good bit while I was playing this, so my playing got particularly sloppy. Okay. Here we've got another regular fade instead of a crossfade, so I'll just move that, slide it back to the left, and it automatically makes my crossfade. And I want to make sure that we're still grouped. It looks like we are. Jordan, it's the little things in life that matter. I'm glad to be of assistance. What's up? Okay. Oh, I didn't even catch it. Sorry. I think we're almost done with this pre-chorus. It's weird. It seems like I should be done with this song by now, but I get sidetracked a lot. I don't know what I did here. It looks like I just didn't play well is what it amounts to. Now here's another place where we're going to need to move this crossfade to try to get as much of that out as possible. But you can see as we start to move this to the right, a little bit of the original snare transient starts to come into play. So I think I want to elongate this fade a little bit, perhaps. And that should be sufficient. We'll cross-check it once we get the section complete. That nice big snare hit is dead on. I'll leave that alone. Okay, now we're at the end of this section. I want to place a cut here and be sure that the kick on the downbeat of the downbeat of the chorus is in line. Alec, let's see. I pretty much do it the same way. I don't deal with. I mean, most of the people that come and record with me, which to put this into perspective, I'm not a professional audio engineer. My day job is an IT administrator. I just like dabbling with this stuff. I've done some albums here for friends and for bands that I'm a part of and friends of friends and things like that, but this is not necessarily a full-fledged studio. This was going to be a family/media room, but my loving wife
You're welcome.
yeah, I guess kind of allowed me to turn it into a studio because none of us really watch TV. But I go through the same process pretty much no matter what. I just edit based on the feel of the song with care given to the grid. As you can see, I'm not doing like a lot of metal records and literally splicing up every single hit, but I try to edit in sections and move larger sections that are in time with themselves and just move the major hits to where it's, where it's in time, but still has a little bit of human element / error in it. Let's take a listen to this chorus, or pre-chorus rather, and make sure that we don't have to make any corrections in here.
Right or wrong, good or bad, they will show me the way. Right or wrong, good or bad, I won't mind either way.
I think I heard a tom there that was, which I've not touched the toms at all. Gotcha. Yeah, some of the parts that are a little bit off, I'm totally fine with that, but you'll hear some pretty bad mess ups in the in the guitar solo. Let me go back a hair, and I want to pay a particular attention somewhere around this marker where it sounds like a tom is annoyingly out of time.
Right or wrong, good or bad, I won't mind either way.
Yeah, that tom hit right there is annoyingly out of time.
Right or wrong, good or bad, I won't mind either way.
Okay, it's right there. That should be on 2.5, but it is significantly late. I've got a split right there, which suggests I probably moved something else. Well, okay, I did a split there to make sure that this snare was in time. So to fix this, I'll need to place another cut before this snare so that I can make sure that that stays right where it is. And now I will move this crossfade and slide this tom hit back in time. Once again, you can see where we've introduced an artifact here because we've got part of the snare that's coming after. So that'll sound, you'll hear the double trigger. So that's one of the proverbial glitches I talked about. So to fix that, I will hold shift and click on this crossfade and just erase it. Now let's check it. Much better. So I can get rid of this marker, that part's fixed. And I want to go back to the top of that pre-chorus and listen to this all in context again. It's great if one little piece is good, but it needs to all flow in context, like with everything else around it.
Right or wrong, good or bad, they will show me the way. Right or wrong, good or bad, I won't mind either way.
Whoa. All right. I got off there. Okay. It looks like I just made a bad decision and stuck that on the wrong beat. We'll fix it. Okay, this presents an interesting dilemma. Let me take a look at this and figure out how we're going to fix this. We've got a kick transient that is errant. My apologies if the dog starts barking. There she goes. Let me take a quick listen and see what's happening here. Okay. This is not going to be as bad as I thought. I just had all of that in the wrong place. So this just needs to slide over. And that should fix itself. And the same thing again here. I just chose the wrong beat to place this stuff on. That's what I get for doing it by eye instead of listening. This ghost note right here, since it's got such a prominent hit afterwards, I do want to move that to get a little bit more significant impact there. Okay, that sounded good. Let's go back and listen to the entire pre-chorus and see if we can make it through without spotting any glitches.
Right or wrong, good or bad, they will show me the way. Right or wrong, good or bad, I won't mind either way.
Sorry about that. I had my mic turned down for a second. That is sounding pretty good to my ear. I mean, we've edited the heck out of this song so far. If we go back and look at how many cuts we've made so far, it looks like it's hacked to death, but everything still sounds very natural to me. So we're up to our first chorus. I do need to show you another action real quick. This normal edit, again, it's a custom action. And if I take a look at what that does, basically it just restores everything back to the normal mouse functions. The first thing is it disables the auto crossfade on split, and it sets my mouse modifier actions for the bottom half and top half. The bottom half left drag to the factory default, and the same thing for the bottom half. What is this? Did I do the same thing twice? No, one is left drag and one is left click, but grab a screenshot of that so you'll know how to revert, because otherwise you've got no way to really come out of your fast edit mode and set your mouse back to the way it was. Before we hit this next section, let's make sure that everything here is grouped, and it is. And of course we want to go and fix this to where it crossfades, just so that there's no harsh stops there. I want to focus on my snare and kick, those being the primaries. And let me slide this back so we've got a little bit more real estate for what we're working on. We've already made sure that our first kick is on beat. You can see we drifted a little bit here, both directions, so that's going to need to be cut and slipped into place. And this will probably get me in trouble, but I want to try to do a bit more of this by eye and hopefully get through it quickly. It's weird how I can take something like Fast Edit and make it the slowest thing on the planet. But it's weird because I don't know, sometimes it takes me forever. You have to join and sign up by me. Lawrence, I don't think that you have to join or anything. I mean, it's just like a PayPal. I've never been on the other side of it, so I don't quite know how to answer that. I'm sorry. We had this stupid idea, and you guys tell me if it's really a stupid idea, but I thought it would be cool to see if anybody would be willing to send us coffee mugs to be displayed on the show, or whatever you want to call it. Just be kind of neat to have some coffee mugs from all over the world, but I have no clue what shipping costs for something like that. Mastering in the Box, thank you very much for your generous donation. I wish that I had those things where it pops up on the screen during the YouTube streams, but I'm not at a point to where I'm monetized and can't do half that stuff yet, so I just have to check my email and see when someone's done that. But anyways, thank you so much for your donation. This stuff is really bad, but would you mind putting this in the fridge so it doesn't get worse? Thank you. Let's see, Alec. Reason why it splits all of your tracks. You can do it for selected tracks only, Alec. Up in the toolbar, you've got a default icon that's for grouping. I've got mine set to have grouping enabled and also to select the entire group when I click on one. The reason that I want to split everything is because I want all of the drums to move as a whole. If you move one element of the drums, you have to keep in mind that when you hit anything on your drum kit, it's picked up by pretty much every mic. So there's some piece of that instrument that you just moved on the other mic. So it all needs to move together. Otherwise, you'll get some phase issues or some mistriggers or things that are out of place. It's best to move them all together. Now, there are some cases where you'll need to move one item. We may have to cover that in this performance. I don't know that I did bad enough to have to do that, but if it pops up, I will definitely be sure to call you out. I'm kind of hoping it doesn't because they're a little tough to fix when you need to move one thing. I find that most halfway decent drummers are generally in time with themselves, but not necessarily in time with the song. So as long as the drummer is in time with himself, you should never have to move just one item. I am not a fantastic drummer, so we're probably going to have to do something like that at some point, but let's hope it's not as bad as I think. Mug. Awesome. I will have to do that. I guess, what's the best way to do that? I guess probably setting up a P.O. box or something. Let's see if we can get through this chorus before for tomorrow. It's currently 7:02 p.m. here. For the sake of having time with my family, I think I want to limit myself to another 58 minutes and try to wind this up around 8 o'clock our time, whether I'm done or not. Spyro, I'll finish this for you either way, but I find that I work a lot slower when I'm on the internet, but at the same time, I'd like to try to show people what little bit I've learned because it might help. I mean, there were a lot of folks that I'm grateful for who were patient with me and helped me to learn this stuff. John has been quite helpful. Kenny Joya has been quite helpful. I've not worked with him directly, but I've bought John's courses. He's got the Mixing and Reaper classes on his website, reaperblog.net, and those were fantastic. They helped me to learn a lot. John's also... the way that I learned what I'm doing now is my old band, we were recording some songs. I played guitar for that band, and we recorded a song and I wasn't happy with my editing work on it. So, and I also wanted to learn how to edit drums. So I sent it to John to edit for me and film it. I basically just paid for a private lesson. So I wanted him to edit the drums, but also show me how to edit the drums. And that's where I learned this. I have no clue if this stuff is on the right hits. I'm just moving stuff to what looks right. I know that for the most part, my snares should be on 2s and 4s, minus the ghost notes, with the occasional stray. You'll notice that I keep kind of moving in and out like this. I'm doing that with my scroll wheel up and down. And going back to John, he just kind of keeps things at the same level all the time. But I'm not quite at the level to where I can do this without second guessing myself. And I just want to try to make sure that these things are actually lined up. There's probably several things that you can change, like in your theme, as well as scaling up your waveforms to help make this a little bit easier. But I just work with what I got and keep moving. Now this is interesting here. I'm going to guess that that's probably a late hit. I need to listen to that. I think I got off probably somewhere else in here, so let's go back to the beginning of this chorus and take a listen. Let me check my chat session real quick. It's 4 full takes after literally 10.
Try to find it, it's okay if you don't have the feeling.
Something sounds weird in the snare there. I may have got a hit that's off.
Try to find it, it's okay if you don't have the feeling.
I think it may be this snare hit that's off. Perhaps that should be on... I don't know. Let's see.
Yeah, if you don't have the feeling.
Nope. That should go back where it was. Go off for a while, but back from Welcome back, Adam. Oh, hi YouTube, I'm Dad. He has another Reaper-centric channel here on YouTube. Be sure to check him out for bad jokes, dad jokes, basses, and mixing tips, tricks, and all sorts of tomfoolery. Something sounds really funny in there, and I can't quite put my finger on it. Let me stop talking for a minute and try to focus on this.
Try to find it, it's okay if you don't have the feeling.
I feel like it's this snare hit, but let me get my click back in.
Try to find it, it's okay if you don't have the feeling.
It's definitely that snare hit, but I can't seem to figure out where it needs to go.
Try to find it, it's okay if you don't have the feeling.
Now it sounds fine. I don't know. Let me just slide this transient back a hair and see how that feels.
You don't have the feeling. Your time to
Just let it go.
welcome. As he said, I will forever keep the look you gave to me that night.
Okay, right about there is where we start getting kind of silly. I guess what I would want to do in a case like this is start with got ages to use PayPal. My bank card froze transaction. Thank you for trying, Lawrence. Let's see here. Which of you is SMP Mastering Solutions? Lawrence, is that you? Let's start with what I know, and let's put that here. Of course, at this point, I don't really know anything. Let's move that snare onto a 2. That should be good. Mastering in the box, that's you. Okay, I see. This is doubling up things. The emails for these, I get a notification from PayPal, but I also get a notification from Buy Me a Coffee, and I guess the names are often different. Ah. Spyro, if you need a mastering engineer, I think we have one on here with us. What was I doing? Okay, let's see. I was moving that kick. I'm just going to take some wild guesses here and move some stuff and listen to it. I may be dead wrong, but, I mean, we'll figure it out. I think that's where that's supposed to go. Let's take a listen.
The look you gave to me that night, so
Sounds mostly right. That last big snare hit sounds off.
forever kid. The look you gave to me that night, so
Yeah, okay, so those sound good, and of course this stuff is jacked up, so we'll start slipping this. I know that should be there. That looks good. I think that this is probably the first song that I've ever edited that's got a swing feel to it. And editing with my grid in triplets is kind of causing me some visual difficulties with these splits. Okay.
Yeah.
It's interesting looking at the marker down there and seeing that a lot of these moves are milliseconds, but I mean, if you can feel it, it's this is going to be a fun one. Just end up trimming off some of that kick. That may cause a glitch. We'll find out when we check. It doesn't look squirrely enough for me to place a marker there and fool with it just yet. Those are looking good. Hey, it looks like we're back in fast at it. Well, I spoke too soon. I thought we were about to start moving fast, but now I've got a hot mess right here.
Okay.
Well, but I've got the snare on time. I've got a kick that's defying everything. I guess we need to just move the snare in time and see if the other hit defies it enough. It's just a little bit before, so it's probably going to be okay. I'll split that little snare ensemble up a little bit. Don't let her knock my laptop off, please. My dog is threatening to destroy my laptop. Look at that, putting people together right here on the interwebs.
Oh.
I think we're... My Mastiff is bumping my arm. Hi, Belle. Okay. You're going to have to back up, sweetheart. I can't work with you nudging your head under my arm. I'll have to get her on camera before this is over. Yeah, those fills were fun. There's a lot of fun stuff in this song. Questionable timing. See, this is how they make all the drummers look good. Now, granted, there's a lot of people out there who just play really, really well, and none of this stuff is necessary. What's going on here? Let's see. We've got some light snare hits. Oh, I know what's going on there. I remember this part. I want those to be dead on because it accents the guitar hits. That looks good. Spyro, if you can send me a link in Discord for how he can hear your original, or if you're okay with sharing that with everybody, feel free to send that to me in Discord and I'll post it up in the YouTube chat. By default, it doesn't let other people post links, I guess for security purposes. Because if somebody posts something questionable, I'm on the hook for it. That is a big old snare hit right there. That is a big old snare hit right there. Looks like I may have clipped right there. Move this guy back. All right, we are almost to verse 2. We are right up on it. We'll get that lined up, and let's go back and listen to the chorus. Mastering in the box, all of that gibberish triggered the spam bot, and I had to approve that post. Spyro, if you've got a link to your song with the program drums or the loops that you used before, if you wanted to share that with everybody. Let's take a listen to this chorus and see if I need to go back and edit anything. I'm going to mute my microphone for a minute so I can turn this up without it bleeding through.
Try to find it, it's okay if you don't have the feeling. Your time to know will come. As he said, I will forever keep the look you gave to me that night. So, would you mind it if I stay? Mind it if I stay?
Oh, whoops. I guess I accidentally unmuted my mic with the spacebar. So hopefully I've got a what do you call it? A sidechain compressor on the music so I can talk over it. So hopefully I didn't duck out too much of the music there. Danny Boy, yeah, that is a Mapex kit. It is I think it's a Mapex Mars, whatever their low-end line is. It's a 7-piece kit that I bought used from a friend, and I've got it with all custom-made Sentent cymbals. I've got Pearl Demon Drive double kicks, Tama hardware, and all kinds of other nerd stuff. I placed a marker here because I heard a snare glitch that's probably going to require some crossfade love. Let's take a listen back to that. Yeah, I am on Discord. I gotta look at it real quick and figure out how to see what my name is, or however this works. I feel kind of silly that somebody's gonna have to tell me how to use Discord. Let's see if this works. There we go. Let's see if I can figure out what is going on around here with the snare. It sounds like a snare was prematurely cut off. Yeah, Adam, that track is crying for a bass line. There's nothing really wrong in here. The snare hit is not cut. Let me listen to that one more time. Maybe it was just a weak hit. Yeah, it was just a weak hit. It sounded to me like maybe I had... Whoops. It sounded to me like maybe I had made a bad cut and there was a crossfade glitch, but it's just a bad snare hit. So let's remove that marker and listen to the rest of this and make sure that this, what do you call it? Make sure that this fill at the end of the chorus sounds good. Let me triple check these now that I've listened to it. They sound mostly good, but since I've got some tom work in there, I may want to go down and spot check the toms. Yeah, we're doing good. I haven't had to go to the bathroom yet. Hey, Brendan, welcome aboard. I am in the process of editing drums that I recorded a couple days ago for Spyro. check the description. There's a link to his Instagram. And right now we're just going through the chorus and checking the edits that I made because there's a fill here towards the end that I want to make sure is relatively tight. The song's got a bit of a swing groove to it, and I'm not that great at playing swing, so I'm being extra cautious. That snare hit right there sounds a bit late to me. And like I said before, I don't necessarily care if it's not dead on the line, but if I can hear it, it's bothersome. I mean, if it catches my attention. Something weird is going on there, and I can't. Okay, I see what it is. If I take a look at the kick here, the snare hit after that is on the next 16th note triplet. This one should be in the same position because those two hits are the same relationship. So I'll slide that back, which means more to fix, of course. The fudge. All right, we may have some stuff to fix here. Let's take a listen. This is going to be fun here. Yep. Give me just a few seconds to think about how to approach this, because this is going to be wacky. Alright, so what needs to happen here is for this snare hit, the part after, to pretty much not exist. So I may need to ungroup and move these things. So what I'm going to do is turn off grouping, which we normally don't want to do when we're doing these kinds of edits, and select this piece, this hit by itself. I'm going to grab the right edge of it and hold Alt, and you can see that the cursor changed to a hand, and I can stretch this. Actually, I'm stretching the fade. I don't want to do that. I want to actually stretch the item. Okay, now you'll notice as I do that, you can see that rate down at the bottom of that dialog that popped up. I generally don't want to go any further than 90, which it'll play that hit 90% speed instead of 100%. That stretches this out to where I can move the crossfade just for that item and hopefully get that mess out of there. Now, this is something that I'm going to need to listen to for sure and make sure it's not too much of an anomaly. Okay, it's a lot of anomaly. This may be out. Oh, wait a minute. Wait. I may not have had to have done all that stuff. Let me check something here. Move this because the rest of this. Oops, my grouping's not turned on. All kinds of things. All right, so grouping's turned back on. Let's see, that relationship is correct. This needs to move, I think. Let's see if that's right. I made a mess. We're gonna figure this out. This is good. This is a real problem. All right. When you come across problems like this that are extremely chaotic, sometimes what it's best to do, and this is going to look terrible, Spyro, you may want to avert your eyes. Let's see. That part's good. I'm going to take this part to here and delete it. Now it sounds like this. Perfect. So now I'll take this and drag this out so I've got a fresh chance of fixing this because I apparently made an edit that was way off, and now I need to figure out what we've done. So, holy crap. So the whole thing was in time just fine before I edited it, or at least mostly. But now that I can see what I had originally played, I can maybe make a bit more intelligent decision for any edits that I want to do to it. I probably shouldn't even touch this at this point, but I'm going to try. Now, Kathy says I should leave it, and she's probably right. Let's move this. And that definitely needs to be dead on the 2. I know that. Let's try that. Got myself out of a difficult situation there. Sounds a little bit crunchy. I think I may want to leave it alone, but I'm going to place a marker here to go back and check it later. What I'm pressing for the add marker, you can add a marker just by pressing the letter M on the keyboard, but if you press Shift M, the heck did I just do? If you press Shift M, it brings up an option to name the marker as well. Let's see, CZECH, check later. Let's see here. Okay, so the only thing that I hear that's kind of wonky right there is that kick, but I may leave it alone. At this point, would you guys like to move on to the next verse, or would you like to hear it in context from the beginning up until the point where we stopped editing? I'll give you about 5 to 10 seconds to converse amongst yourselves and make a decision. Do 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 do. Do do. All right, let's see. So show of hands, do we want to move on to the next verse and continue editing, or shall we? The missus wants to go on to the next verse and finish editing. So unless someone else says otherwise, we're going to keep moving forward. If anybody wants to go back and hear the work so far, listen to the wife more. Lawrence, I think you just won the internet. Would you like to say anything? You'll have to kind of come over here to do it.
I like Lawrence.
Lawrence, congratulations. You are now the proud owner of a Kathy. Okay, maybe not. She. Oh, I failed to. Let's see. Are we listening to something? That's what I was asking. Did you guys want to listen back over what we've got so far, or do we want to continue forward and edit the verse? I feel like I've done a lot of editing with very little listening. So if you guys want to hear some of it and hear what it sounds like, please speak up. I'm not going to edit the whole thing today. You should go into this solo part and find the real problems. Let's see. Well, but the thing with doing that is everything that I do downstream affects, well, everything I do here affects what comes next. I realize we've got different sections cut up here, and I may get into some trouble. Tell you what, let me try this. I'm gonna save a copy of this so that if I screw it up, then I can go back to where I was. So we'll save this as, let's see, about to edit solo. All right, so we've got a few folks that want to do a playback, so I'm going to go back to the front, and then once we get up to the second verse, because the second verse is very much like the first verse, except a little bit more intense, we'll skip to the solo to make sure that we get to edit something difficult while we've got time. Let me mute my mic in OBS real quick so that this doesn't feed back. Where's OBS? Right there. And we will move forward with the listening.
And I don't know what day it is. Slide the magic from the ashtray. Take a sip and push my fingers in the rings. On the move to find out what day it is. Right or wrong, good or bad, they will show me the way. Right or wrong, good or bad, I won't mind either way. Try to find it, it's okay if you don't
right, so that's got us up through the chorus. I do think that this marker 13 that I placed to go back and check this will require a little bit of love, but we're not going to do that now. Since we've got about 30 minutes left, let's go ahead and take a look at this solo. And it's a two-section, what do you call it? A two double, I don't know, double rainbow. It's something. It runs for a 2 iterations, I guess is the word I'm looking for. I want to check my drums in solo with the click because I need to figure out before going into this if I was badly out of time or if the music just has an issue there. So let's take a listen to the drums as is with Spyro's comp. And yeah, don't laugh because I made a lot of mistakes here. I mean, you can laugh if you want to. I'm funny. What did I just do? See, I told you it's funny. I need to go. Oh, I've got the drum soloed, but I need to also bring that click in. Let's try this again. Again, what I'm doing now is just running the drums in solo for a minute with the click because I need to make sure which of us is out of time. As you can hear, it is me, probably a little bit of both. So let's get started right away. First things first, I want to make sure that we're grouped because there's some... I can see that it looks like he wanted to keep the same take here, but for some reason there's a strange split. So I think what I want to do first is place a split here. Also place a split there. And yeah, because these are all take 3. I want to delete these and just make sure that I can keep everything grouped. So we'll ungroup those and then grab them and make sure that all of this is in the same group. Turn off my snapping and then drag this over to crossfade it into the next section, and then we'll fix whatever happens there in a minute. We've got some weirdness going on here with fades, it looks like, so take that back and make sure that's crossfaded in properly. Yeah, just got another grouping problem here. I think because the previous section wasn't grouped, that just caused a bit of an issue. So first thing we'll need to do is get this first kick in line. It is actually on a beat, isn't it? I can't tell if that marker is... I think that the solo marker is in the wrong place because it's not coming in on an actual beat. I could be wrong, but I'm about to find out. So, okay, so now that's 19 measures for that section. Let's move this kick in place and see what happens if I start right there. Okay, so that is definitely where it starts. Oh, it is all good, man. It happens. It is very easy to accidentally group, ungroup, and all that stuff. Now this snare hit here is obviously off. That should be on the 4, so I'm going to go ahead and start on my fast edit mode, and let's get on it. I think that may be the cause of a lot of the outages, is that if I was off that much on a primary beat, that's going to throw off everything. So hopefully just a couple of quick edits, and we'll be pretty close to back on time. The primary through this section is the, what do you call it? The ride bell is very prominent in this. So when I go back and cross-check, since I'm making my cuts based on the kick and snare, I also want to pay attention to that ride bell, and I may have to make some additional cuts to make sure that that stays in, but we'll see what happens. That looks good. So we'll put a cut there. The cut that I'm placing here is just to preserve this for when I move this other piece. I don't want that snare hit that's in time to get moved. You can tell I second guessed myself a lot playing this. I was kind of struggling to hear the click, but even if I could hear it perfectly, I mean, I'm still going to make mistakes. It is what it is. I'll get through a few more measures of this and then we'll take a listen to what we got. I'm not 100% sure what's supposed to happen here, so I'm going to cut early and just make sure that that snare hit is in place. I assume that this kick is supposed to move forward a hair, so I guess I can go ahead and try that. If it's wrong, we'll find out a bit later. All drum tracks in the group. Yeah, it's all grouped. I've got 10 drum tracks, and I've just got 2 of them exploded. As long as these are all the same color and we're moving, we're in good shape. These 2 down below, that's the background music and the click track. The one at the bottom is my drum monitor, which is where I had the click in the background running to my in-ear back by the drums, to where I could control my inner mix independent of what was in the main. See how far we've got. Well, we've made it in like almost 4 measures. Let's see what it sounds like. Sounding mostly good. I heard a little bit of crunchiness in there that I'll need to go back and correct. More distance acoustic rhythm miking work. Perhaps. What is... The dog is sneezing. This is sounding a lot better than that hot mess that it was before. I think when I had gone through to do a little bit of editing on this earlier today just to make sure that I wasn't going into this totally blind for the stream, and I think I butchered this solo because I didn't have my grid set to the triplets. That's weird. I'm not sure if this is correct here. Let's check it. Okay, yeah, that sounds pretty good. Wait, Lawrence, do you have something to do with the Reaper manual by chance? I'm not sure, but I think that I recognize your name from the Reaper forum, but I don't really recall in what capacity. I'm not sure what the snares are supposed to be doing there. That may need to be addressed. We'll check it in context here shortly. I'm going to try to get as much of this solo done as I can before the 8 o'clock hour hits. But I'm at a little bit of an awkward point to where I'm going to need to hear some of this stuff, because once again, that triplet grid is really throwing me. I'm just not used to working in it is all. Nope. All right, let me mute this mic, and well, I'll just turn down my monitor a bit. Let's take a listen to this solo so far. It sounded pretty good. I'm curious, can you guys hear my dog walking? It looks like the mic's picking it up, but I've got no concept as to how loud she is to you guys. Okay, so this part that I was concerned about was actually some triplets on the snare. It's a little bit off. I'll shift it a hair and see if that introduces too much of a glitch. Sounded fine to me. I think maybe that needs to go back a hair. Maybe it needed to go forward. We will figure this out together. Yeah, she has got very long nails on a wooden floor. Maybe we can get her to lay on her blanket and chill. I disabled the gate on my microphone because I'm usually so quiet that people don't hear me. I can't quite determine where this kick needs to go. Let's let me just listen to this section a couple more times. I'll get it. Okay, I think maybe this kick needs to move back. And that brought a ghost note back in, which may get this back in line. That needs to move forward. Wow. That ain't right. Alright, so we're going to do what we did last time and grab this whole section and eliminate it. And we'll paint this out and see what the original sounded like there. You can see we're catching up with ourselves there, so that crossfade's definitely going to need to move. And let's see what that sounds like. Okay, that's much better. That looks like that needs to move forward, so I think I'll make a single cut here and shift all this forward. And see how that feels. Yeah, so like I showed before, sometimes you end up making too many cuts and just have to delete some stuff and paint out from the previous part that you've got in time. That feels like it's late. That's definitely not going to be right. Let's try here. With a slight shift back of these. I hope I don't end up right back where I was with this messed up. That feels like that should go on the triplet right here. It may just need to be stretched a hair. Yeah, I'm not liking that. Okay, let's see, where did I stop? I stopped right about there. So let's nuke this and paint this out. Crossfade and move this back. I'm going to place a marker here to check it later. I don't want to stay stuck on one section for too long, so I just place these markers so I don't forget it. Okay, so we're roughly back on time here. That's fine. This one little hit was a bit off. It's kind of nerve-wracking. I'm getting to that point to where I'm starting to be a little too perfectionist, but it's so important that this particular groove lock in and feel right. I don't want to move too much. I'll just move this one little section to get that kick in time. Okay, now we're back to simpler stuff. I love it when you can clearly see where everything needs to go, but sometimes these things can get complicated fast. Yay, we're back to moving fast again. It seems like every time that I say that, I'll come across a section that's ridiculous and have to do a lot of work. All right, we got 15 minutes left. I want to try my best to finish up this solo, so forgive me if I don't ramble as much as usual. I'm going to try my best to focus and get this done. All right, we're almost to the second half of the solo. I'll switch back to my normal edit mode and, whoops, make sure this is all grouped, which it is. And make sure we got a crossfade in place there. Let's start editing. Right out of the gate, we're, whoops, a little bit off here. These aren't too bad. Now here I've got a snare that is offset from the kick. I think I'll probably favor the snare since it's on a 2. We'll just let that early kick slide because it's not off a lot. It looks like just a few milliseconds. Same thing here. Is at some point you kind of just have to favor one thing or the other. Otherwise you'll end up ungrouping everything and moving things and making it sound a whole lot more unnatural. Whoever discovered this whole concept of slip editing is an absolute genius. I mean, this is not something that's unique to Reaper, but I mean, I wonder, did they do this kind of stuff even in the tape days? Right, but I mean, when they're cutting tape, well, they're doing it all at once. I guess really, well, that makes sense. They probably did do this because if they did this with tape, I know that the tape had multiple tracks on it, so it's probably really the same concept. They cut the tape and moved all the stuff at once. I don't know where that hit needs to go. Let's just try getting the snare on the 2 and moving this crossfade. Hopefully those 2 performances will bleed into, oh, you edited tape? Lawrence, please tell, was something like this even remotely possible with tape? Oh, impossible. Good to know. So does anyone know how this concept was first introduced? Like, was this something that was on Pro Tools or some other DAW? I have never used Pro Tools, and I'm okay with that. I don't hate it as a DAW. I mean, I guess I really can't because I've never used it, but I know that every place that I've ever been that uses it, they seem to curse at it the entire time. But they still keep using it. And there's so many other DAWs out there. I mean, it seems to me that Pro Tools used to be a really big deal when it was specific because of their hardware, but I think they've fallen along the wayside a bit. Tape loops. We have to have you as a guest on here sometime so we can just have a long discussion about like recording and editing technology. I find that stuff fascinating. Like there was a video that I think it was Rob Scallon did where they recorded a metal band with a wax cylinder. How are you getting it to keep the selected tracks while slip editing? Keep the selected tracks. Let's see, Danny Boy. This icon here, assuming you're using the default theme, if you right-click that, there's two options. There's one to enable grouping, and then the second one is the most important. Selecting one item selects the entire group. When I've got my fast edit mode engaged, what am I saying? That changes some of my mouse modifiers, but that still follows the conventions for this group. So when I make a cut across one, it automatically selects the entire group and cuts them and adds a crossfade in the same place as all of them. If I didn't exactly answer that, just let me know and I'll try to get the missus to help me word that better. English is not my gift. Akai sampler. I have like no experience with any of this stuff. It's weird to me because like Reaper is not my first DAW. I think before Reaper, I used to dabble with In-Track Studio. I have no clue if they're even still around anymore. And other than that, Reaper is the only DAW I've used. This looks like I probably tried to do some fast kicks. We'll find out in a bit if they're usable or not. They may take a little bit of love to get them lined up. Those are looking fine. That kicks a little off. Definitely want to make sure that these primary snare hits are on. I'm really hoping that we luck out on this and that I don't hear any major glitches when we play back through. I probably should have cross-checked some stuff, but this is mostly looking good. Nine minutes, Robinson. You can do this. Looks like little ghost notes there. Come up with good melodies. Goodness. I'm not going to try to pronounce the name because I'm sure I will butcher it. I can barely speak as it is, but I've got no experience at all with EDM. I asked Aria from IDD QD Sound, I think it is, if he was able to help with any of that. And he had said that he's really good with MIDI and can help you a lot with that, but doesn't really have a whole lot of experience with EDM either. If any of you guys have some good resources for EDM, kindly let me know. Yeah, I do like to have some push and pull. I just want to make sure that what is there is like this. This kick is a little bit off, but I don't care. It just really, this is going to sound silly, but it depends on how it sounds. And the reason that to say that sounds silly is because I've barely been listening to any of this stuff. I've just been looking. But a lot of this is, I guess, in some respects, just from experience. It's like I'll see things and move them and kind of know what it's going to sound like. And if I see anything that looks weird, that's when I generally stop and go back and listen and make sure that I made an intelligent decision. Like I made a mistake there. I was grabbing the wrong half of the waveform. And like I said, for the most part, I'm just paying a lot more attention to primary beats than anything right now. Just making sure that the backbone is in line. Typically, when I do this, I focus on kick and snare and the backbeat, and then go back and focus on the finer elements if needed later. Like you said, sometimes that push and pull is just fine. There's certain genres where it's kind of not allowed, but something like this, it's more of a swing groove. I think that push-pull is more than acceptable. I'm probably doing too much, if I'm honest, for this, but I wanted to show as much of the technique as possible, because ultimately, as long as you've got the tools to do this, you can make artistic decisions as to whether you want to cut and slip edit, how much or how little as needed. The important part is the tools, and I was kind of hoping that I would make several mistakes that we could go back and correct, and we've seen several mistakes that I introduced so far. I mean, once you start doing something like this, it's definitely good to know how to fix the mistakes that you make, because they're going to happen. There's no way around it. All right, we're almost done with this. We have got 4 measures to go. I want to make sure we come out of this strong, and we'll go back and listen to it and try to fix whatever other bugs I may have introduced before that next chorus. Okay, we've got another grouping issue here, so I'll move that back. Once it caught up with the group, now those are moving in time with each other. That's not grouped, so I need to fix that. Oh, one thing that I didn't do, Danny Boy, that I should have covered before I started moving anything, and really I should have done this before passing the project over to Spyro to let him choose his comps. So I made some mistakes there. Typically what I would do is take all the full performance and make sure that the overheads, and what the heck happened here? He liked the kick performance there better. So I need to, let me finish this real quick so I don't totally lose my train of thought, because I got something I need to address here real quick. What I'm doing here is I'm splitting all of this. He liked that kick better than the kick that was from that other performance. So I just want to make sure that all of this stuff is properly grouped so I don't cause more trouble as I go. Now this section is its own group, and so I'm going to need one more. Goodness gracious. Dang it. I'm trying my best to snap right there, but I think what's going to be easiest, maybe just pulling this all back. So now I can make this section a group. Can pull that back and let that snap. There's some strange edits in here that are causing me a little bit of grief. So ungroup that, and now group all these. Okay, so anyway, what I was saying was before you start, what you should do is take all of the full takes and make sure that the first hit of all 4 takes is lined up. Also make sure that your snare top and bottom are pretty well lined up. Some people like to line up their overheads with the first snare hit. I don't really care to have them lined up exactly with the snare, because when you think about it logically, the overheads are a different distance from the snare versus the top mics. So it makes sense in my head for that hit to be a little bit later than the actual snare mic, if that makes sense. I mean, it is a physical impossibility for that sound wave to hit both of those, or to hit all 4 of those mics, the snare top and bottom, well, 6 mics, I should say, the snare top and bottom, the 2 overheads, and I've also got stereo room mics. Oh, I've got snapping on, I need to turn it off. Let's get that in line. And we are about ready to listen to this solo. Hi to my wife, Kim. Hi, Kim. Let's let Kathy say hi.
Hi.
Thanks for joining us. Thank you for letting us borrow Lawrence for a while. We've learned a bit about tape, which I know nothing about. I mean, I barely know anything about Reaper, if I'm honest. Let's Let's check this solo. I'm going to mute my mic for a second so we can hear this. There may be some errors because I didn't cross-check this as we went, but we completed our goal of at least getting the primary cuts of the solo finished before cutoff time. So let me shut up so you can hear it.
Try to find it.
Dropping pans in the kitchen. That's awesome. I admit I did get a bit crash happy on that. I mean, at heart, I'm a rock and metal drummer and have never played anything remotely close to this style before. Well, admittedly, I'm a guitarist more so than I am a drummer, so I was happy to get this much. It's about quitting time, so let's take a listen to the amount that we've got edited from front to back, and then we will call it a night. It is getting close to closing time, so let's get our last questions up if anybody's got any. I'm going to mute this real quick, and let's listen up through that solo again in full context. I'll also mute the click so we can just enjoy the music for what it is.
And I don't know what day it is. Slide the magic from the ashtray. Take a sip and push my fingers in the rings. On the move to find out what day it is. Right or wrong, good or bad, they will show me the way. Right or wrong, good or bad, I won't mind either way. Try to find it, it's okay if you don't have the feeling. Your time to know will come. As he said, I will forever keep the look you gave to me that night. So, would you mind it if I stay? I am already lost my way back. Slide my fingers in her mouth. Take a sip, try to remember who I am. But I'm afraid that I forgot. Up or down, left to right, baby, show me the way. Up or down, left to right, you won't mind either way.
All right, the rest of that is unedited, so we will leave that be for the moment. Let's see here. How do I change this thing? Poof. All right. Say hi, Kathy. You're on full screen now.
Hi, Kathy.
Mike Wazowski. Thank you guys again for hanging out with us this evening. The song is not finished, but we got quite a lot accomplished. I would say in a short amount of time, but we spent 2 hours goofing off, learning some things, and having fun. We should do this again sometime. Spyro, thank you for the opportunity. It's absolutely amazing what happens over the internet. You totally trusted a complete stranger with your work to record drums, not having a clue if he could even play for a crap, which, I mean, I play okay. But that's why we do editing, because it takes okay-ish drummers and makes them sound a little bit better. Hope you guys learned a lot this evening. We will, like I said, try to do this again sometime in the near future. And if anybody wishes to supply me with some coffee and help me replace that nasty Fruity Pebbles creamer that she told me not to buy, she did. But I think my exact words were, it's $3.68, get the creamer. And that's $3.68 that I can't get back. Anyway, you guys have been wonderful. Have an excellent evening, and we will catch you later.